Happy birthday, Dr. Paul. Have you heard the people calling who are hungry in the night? Have you heard the prayers of soldiers who are weary from the fight? Have you heard the voice of wisdom in a time of pure deceit? Have you heard the path to freedom is a road you rise to meet? Have you heard the bonds of slavery are forged with paper chains? And the red sun that is rising sets on all of us the same. Unless we stand together now, we all will surely fall. And I heard the call in the words of Dr. Paul. Have you ever seen a country bent and broken on its knees? Or a line 10 miles long of hungry, homeless, begging please? Or a banking institution funding both sides of a war? Or its chairman spouting lies upon the House committee floor? Have you ever seen a talking head on television sway the people through deception, telling lies to earn his pay? Oh, can't you feel the ground shake these institution walls? Well, I watched them fall when I stood with Dr. Paul. Now let the people learn to reason. Now let them stand up on their own. Now let the light of revolution bring it home. Now let the rights of men come shining bright and self-evident and true. And let each one of you be counted as you stand for the one who stood for you. Well, they say that truth is treason in the empire of lies, and the enemies of freedom are all cleverly disguised in temples made of marble where the corporations reign, and the only ones who benefit stand far above the pain as the people battle poverty, depression, and disease, and the crisis turns to meltdown and the liquid starts to freeze, 'cause the printing press is roaring, leaving trillions in its wake, and history won't forgive those who don't learn from their mistakes, as the rights of individuals are stripped down more and more, and we all can finally see the hidden face behind the war. Unless we stand together now, this fate will touch us all. We stand free and tall as we march with Dr. Paul. We marched with Dr. Paul. Well, I marched with Dr. Paul. Whoa. Thank you guys so much. My name is Jordan Paige. Thank you.
This is a Dissident Media production. DissidentMedia.net.
In a world where everything sucks, two men have the balls to laugh at it. This is The System is Down.
We're here at the Ron Paul 90th birthday party. We're in the super special VIP lounge. I don't want to pan around and show you the very empty room in this VIP lounge at the moment. There was a full spread here earlier, I swear. But we're here with the great Dave Smith, who gave a rousing opening speech for the Ron Paul birthday bash. How are you feeling, Dave?
I'm good. This has been it's a great event, and I haven't been to a lot of libertarian events lately, and it's kind of nice to see a lot of people who I love and
people still hanging around this shit.
Yeah, but it is cool, and there's just it's kind of, I don't know, it's weirdly emotional to be here. Like, I spent like a half hour talking to Dr. Paul, and I always kind of it's always kind of heavy after we have conversations. The guy just had such an impact on me, but it's very cool. It's very cool that so many people still like revere this guy so much, and he deserves it.
What's the Ron Paul thing for you? Where did it all start?
Well, it was really his presidential runs in 2008, 2012 that for me and for millions of people were really, truly like paradigm shattering and like just deeply impactful. Like there's a whole group of people, a lot of them here, whose lives were changed by his run, and me personally, that applies to me. And then just, on top of being right about all the most important issues and asserting all of the most important issues in the correct priority, which is so rare that people are good on issues and prioritize the ones that they're good on. And then just being such a decent person the whole time, I think was great. And I think it's a good influence on our group of misfit, kind of loudmouths, that at least our guy who we look to is this gentleman that keeps us all, a little bit better than we would otherwise do. Like, he makes me feel bad for using slurs in debates and stuff like that.
What kind of slurs? Name your favorites.
Out of respect to Dr. Paul, I will plead the fifth.
Not this day. Not today.
Not today. Not on the day of our Lord.
That's right. We both, you and I, supported Donald Trump finally in this last election and are having second thoughts at this point, I would imagine. Just the level of principled nature to see Ron Paul at 90 years old still saying the same thing that he said in 19 whatever.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump going back on what he said 6 months ago. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, Scott Horton said it once, but he said the country needed Ron Paul, but we got Donald Trump.
Right.
And that's kind of the world we're living in. I'm not really surprised. I doubt you're really that surprised either. We kind of knew what we were playing with. The reality is that there was no alternative to Donald Trump in this last election. I think it would have been much worse for the country if Kamala Harris had won. Chase Oliver was close. He had a shot.
This close, by the skin of his teeth.
Didn't quite make it over the hump. But I think that the beautiful thing about the moment we're in now is that it's not like people aren't letting it go, and they're also not going back to the Democrats. So I think Trump, even in his failure, is kind of a positive step for the country.
Sure. Were you involved in the Ron Paul campaigns of yesteryear, or were you kind of just observing?
No, I was just observing. I found Ron Paul in 2007. So that whole 2008 campaign, I was kind of being converted. I was really into it, and I was reading all the stuff, but I was still I don't know if this is right or not. I ended that being converted. By 2012, I was a huge, enthusiastic supporter, but I was just hitting the nightclubs and doing stand-up, and I was broke, and I had no even conceivable thought of how do I go become a part of the campaign. And then I had just started podcasting at the end of his second presidential campaign, and then my audience grew over the years. But no, I was just a guy. I was on the internet. I was on a lot of the forums. I was on the old Daily Paul website and stuff like that. But no, I wasn't involved in the campaigns. Sure. I wish I was.
Even though you weren't working on the campaigns or anything like that, do you have a specific moment or a memory that stands out to you the most? And if you say Rudy Giuliani, that's kind of a cop-out at this point.
No, I've had personal moments with Dr. Paul that were just really great. And I had one with him.
Oh, I've got his number.
Yeah, well, I had one with him. I had a great moment with him today, but I had one with him in D.C. at the convention, where it was. was kind of an emotional event for me. You know, I had been so invested in the Mises Caucus takeover leading into Reno, and then here's the next 2 years later convention. I'm back there after kind of pulling the rug out from people and not running. I'm back in Michael Rechtenwald, of all people, you know, and then that he totally disgraces himself and the whole thing falls apart. Chase Oliver becomes the nominee. You know, this is like the culmination of the Mises Caucus. It's just like a big moment of like, oh, geez. But then Ron Paul, like right toward the end of it, comes in, gives this amazing speech, just like unbelievable. And I went backstage and saw him for a few minutes afterward. And he put his arm around me when I came up to him, and I said, "Hey, Dr. Paul, great speech." And he leaned in and he whispered to me, and he goes, "You're doing such amazing work. Keep it up." Yeah. And it was, and then I remembered that I never had a dad, and I was like, "Oh, I guess that's what that's supposed to feel like." But I just like that moment to me, just personally, like where I was and where the whole thing was, and how much he meant to me in my life. It just really meant a lot to have that little moment. So that's the one that stands out in my mind as like a real moment. But when he had me on the Liberty Report the first time, that was really cool to me too. Yeah. So yeah, moments like that I'll always remember.
I just want to say, Dave, you're doing really great work. I don't know.
Yeah, see, it means nothing coming from you. It's unbelievable. Dave,
where can people find you? Any final thoughts on the doctor and anything else you got going on that you want to talk about?
Ron Paul's the man, legend, greatest living American, and people I challenge you not to find me. I'm out there.
Mm-hmm. Out there more than anybody wants him to be. But Dave, keep up the great work, man. I appreciate it. And we're doing a COVID bump today because I have my hands full. But thanks, man.
Thank you, brother.
What is your actual name again? I'm sorry.
Johnson. Yeah.
We are here outside of the Ron Paul 90th birthday bash with Mr. Podium Guy. Mr. Podium Guy, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. It's a little bit warm out here, especially to be as suited up as you are.
That is completely Trump from Florida, so.
You've been known for being a very classy guy, very, very not casual at all, very businesslike, right?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, the wife likes me in the suit, so you got to accommodate.
All right. What is, everybody knows you from the incident, the January 6th incident and all that. You can, for those that don't, do you want to give the brief recap before we talk about the man of the hour, Mr. Ron Paul?
Well, there were a bunch of people who were very upset about how things were going during the election. We showed up, we walked through some open doors, and we went home. If you listen to the other side of it, we murdered 3,000 police officers, took over the country, and basically we're the new kings of America.
Mm-hmm. I heard that you farted on Nancy Pelosi's desk, or was that somebody else?
That was someone else. I did encourage him, though, so there's,
An accomplice.
An accomplice, yes.
Mm-hmm. Incitement of flatulence.
To be fair, there were only falafel, buses out serving food, so.
Sure. So it was to be expected, yeah. What is your history? I didn't know that you had any ties to Ron Paul or this movement, or because I'm more from the libertarian side of things, but what brings you here? What's your history with the man?
So I am a lifelong non-voter. I was a libertarian for a very long time, just don't trust either side. I voted once in 2016 for Trump because I was very anti-war. Half the reason why I showed up to D.C. that day is because I liked new wars. Mm-hmm. I have 5 children of my own, so the whole idea of not having war was good for me.
Were you and are you still a Trump supporter at this point?
I'm on the fence these days. I am. I think you give accolades where they're due. There's a handful of things that are the things that I voted for and a handful that I'm rubbing my head wondering why we're doing that.
Couldn't agree more. Now, for the man who is consistently principled, Mr. Ron Paul, what is your favorite memory? What is your favorite, experience that you've had supporting him throughout the years?
The fact that he is nicknamed Dr. No, I think, is one of the greatest nicknames to have in Congress. I'm a fan of not passing legislation that takes away rights from American citizens. So I think the fact that he was labeled that is probably my favorite thing about him.
Where can people find you? Everything you got going on and anything you want to plug?
I'm just on Twitter. You can follow me at Lectern Leader. We have a website up called unlicensed.furniture.com. 51% of all of the profit goes to families who have been wrongfully prosecuted by the Department of Justice. It's apolitical, so whether you're right, left, or in the center, if the Department of Justice has caught you up in something they framed you for doing, we're trying to help your family.
Awesome. Adam, thank you so much. I would shake your hand, but mine are full, so we'll bump or something.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cool, man. I appreciate it. We are out here outside the Ron Paul 90th birthday barbecue bash with the one and only Mr. Jason Rink. Jason, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I would not want to be anywhere else in the world than at Ron Paul's birthday barbecue.
Now, I was familiar with you a bit, and we ran into each other earlier, and I think we're best friends now. I'm pretty sure.
Pretty much.
You, as a video guy, there's not a lot of us around, especially in liberty movements of any kind, it seems like. What's a little bit of your background and some of the stuff that you've worked on?
Yeah, I'm an OG Ron Paul 2007, 2008 guy. I'd never been involved in politics, and I don't know where I ran into Ron Paul. I saw him, video of him. This was like early internet, it feels like, you know. I was like, this guy's awesome. And within 2 months, I heard there was these things called meetups, and I was like, oh, I lived in Columbus, Ohio. I was like, oh, maybe there's a meetup. No meetups here. Well, what do I got to do to start a meetup, I guess? Oh, I have $8. Okay. So the next thing I know, I'm leading the Columbus, Ohio meetup. I mean, it was basically me and a handful of guys working with all the other people to run the grassroots campaign. Mm-hmm. You know, it was all just grassroots. You know, Ron Paul changed my life. Everything I do now, being involved in the liberty movement, the kind of work I do, you know, I was in commercial banking back then. I was in commercial banking and then giving speeches at End the Fed rallies. So something had to give. So I left banking and started a production company. It's pretty much
the cognitive dissonance has to break at some point. What are some of the video projects that you've worked on? Did you do video for Ron Paul?
No, you know, it's funny. I wasn't doing it at that time. You know, I was just, I was a former pastor, actually. Okay. So the Ron Paul movement, I had found a pulpit again, right? And so I was just leading people. But we started a podcast shortly after that, like this was like 2008, you know, had Tom Woods on back when podcasts were kind of rare. And then, you know, I wrote a couple of books. I wrote a book on Ron Paul's life. You can get on Amazon. And then, and then I started doing video in 2011. I did a film called Nullification with Tom Woods about the 10th Amendment. And that sort of started my career. I went to go work at Emergent Order with John Popola, the great John Popola back then. He's my mentor in the business, and worked with them, produced a lot of great projects with them over the years. And more recently, I've been doing documentaries. You know, I got involved in the MAGA movement, you know, a bit. I voted for Gary Johnson in 2016.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. When did I vote for Gary Johnson? 2016? Does that sound right? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. That's when I got involved, and I voted for Gary Johnson as well. No, I mean, I voted for Bill Weld and his friend Hillary Clinton and Gary Johnson.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then I never really was a Trump guy in 2020, but when I saw the election happen, I was like, wonder what's going on. Got involved in the Stop the Steal movement as a documentarian, followed them around. That led me to January 6th. I filmed.
You know, the only other person I've interviewed so far is the lectern leader guy. So I feel like we're putting a little bit of a stain on the Ron Paul event that I'm only interviewing January 6th guys.
Yeah,
but go
exactly.
on.
Well, you know, something that was funny was I didn't know much about Stop the Steal or the MAGA movement until I was like, I want to document this. This seems interesting. And I was there as an outsider, as like a Ron Paul guy, mm-hmm. and it struck me how many messages that were happening at those rallies would have resonated with Ron Paulers. Yep. You know, Fox News sucks. I'm like, wait, I thought these were Republicans. You know, no, oh, they think Fox News sucks. Interesting. You know, and so and I think in those early days, I recognized that there was potentially some synergy between Ron Paulers and MAGA from the standpoint that I think a lot of the MAGA people, they were still very, I don't want this to come off wrong, but kind of immature in their thinking around liberty.
Yeah. They were fed up, but they just didn't have a direction for it yet.
Yeah, just not fully formed philosophy around it. And my thought was there's an opportunity for a more Ron Paul-like influence to come in and have an impact and shape some of where these people go and what they think. And I think we've seen that through some of what's happened in just this last election with Trump. You know, you had people talking on the right and, you know, talking about maybe Ron Paul will get involved in the Doge administration, and Elon Musk had Ron Paul influence.
I made shirts. I was into it. Yeah.
Yeah. And Vivek, he had Ron Paul influence, and like, you know, so there's a lot in common there. There's a lot of things that's not in common. And so, you know, being here and seeing the impact of Ron Paul, it's just never going away. I think the opportunity is to figure out how to get more of that Ron Paul revolution spirit to, it sounds so corny, but, you know, it's not bringing the GOP back to its roots. It's bringing the GOP, if possible, back to its Ron Paul roots of 2008, when the populist movement really started, with Ron Paul's campaign. So I think it's amazing, and I think I'm always looking for ways to try to bring people together. I think at the end of the day, Ron Paul says it, it's like freedom is popular and freedom brings people together, and we can find a lot of common ground in that. And I think the bringing together of Maha and MAGA was inspiring, and the results haven't been great necessarily, but seeing
the jury's still very, very out on all that. Yeah.
But the transpartisan nature of who's gotten involved.
Sure.
I mean, thinking that Tulsi Gabbard would get involved in administration of a Republican campaign is just kind of crazy, right? We take it for granted now, but
I mean, the silver lining to all that is that all these people came together on, even if they're not going with the things that they said that they were about, even if they're working largely against those things right now, they all came together on those things and put their name on those things and said, we are anti-war, we are this, we are that. And now they're having to deal with, the deep state or whoever's in charge, making them change their minds. But do you think that the Trump party, is it still going the way that, I mean, I voted for him for the first time this time around, and don't regret it, but he's pushing me toward regretting it. How are you feeling about his term so far?
What I've said is that Ross and the Jan 6ers were freed, and I'll never regret voting for Trump just based on that alone, because we only have one life, and these lives are valuable, and people who are unjustly imprisoned for life or whatever, a long time, it's ridiculous. And so that's a W, and you can never take that away. I don't think you can take it away. It might get taken away. Who knows?
We'll see.
But
we'll see who's next.
Yeah. And, I think there has been some good developments on some things, but overall, I think what is a reality check for a lot of people and is that if anybody was going to take down the deep state, Trump was kind of like the only guy who could possibly pull it off. I don't know how they'll ever let another guy like him get into office. Mm-hmm. And so we got to take the wins that we get along the way and look at this and say, it's been a multi-decade march of bad policies and bad ideas in this country. It's going to take more than 4 years or 8 years to reverse it. And in a lot of ways, I think the reversal of it started with the Ron Paul revolution in 2008. And we're not even 20 years into that. So I hate to say, let's give it another 20 years, but I think it's going to take a while.
We've got a lot of other options, so let's give it another 20 at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Or as many as it takes,
Yeah. But yeah, so, but I'm also a pretty optimistic person generally. Sure. I tend to not black pill. Epstein Files is making me black pill a little bit, but.
I need to have you on my show soon, because I have so many things that I'd like to chat with you about. But we are here for the great Dr. Ron Paul. What is, and I'm also sweating my ass off, but you've been with Ron Paul longer than I have and known the man longer than I have. What's your favorite memories or something that sticks out to you about your experience?
When I was involved in the campaign in 2008, I was in Ohio, and there was Ron Paul was popular with the Amish and Amish adjacent, and a guy in our meetup reached out to us, and he's like, I want to put a huge Ron Paul sign up on the side of my barn. And it was enormous. Yeah. So we got a group of people together and we did a whole Ron Paul for president, I think is what it was. Just huge. It was I don't know how big it was. It was a couple stories and
barn size.
Yeah, it was barn size. And that was that memory I'll never, I thought to myself, what other candidate would you do this for?
Right.
It's right.
There might be some Trumpers out there, Trump barns, but that's about it.
Yeah, but that's a great one. And then just the opportunities to meet and interview Ron Paul. I've had that pleasure a couple of times. I will give one more memory. This is from an interview with Ron Paul. I interviewed him a number of years ago, and I came down to this area, Clute, Texas, or whatever, and went to go interview him at his office. Well, his office at the time, I don't know what it is now, was literally a single wide trailer with a tin roof.
Yeah.
So I go in, and the place is filled with people. They're jammed in there. I'm this man, it truly is frugal. Sit down for the interview. We're wrapping up the last question. and I hear something that sounds like an airplane taking off on the roof. And I'm like, wait, what is that? It was so loud. And as a video maker, it's like ruining the question.
Oh, yeah.
And Ron's like, oh no, it just started raining. I was like, what? And then one of his secretaries leans in, she's like, it's terrible, But I was like, how do you even work in this? But it's like, here he is in this tin roof trailer that every time it rains, you can't even talk to each other. And I was like, that office just sort of embodied the spirit of frugality, and that I think epitomizes Ron Paul. And the last thing I'll say about Ron Paul is I think his most powerful quality is his integrity.
Yeah.
I think in our lives, we should operate and model Ron Paul in the world of integrity, to be our word, and to have that libertarian world, or the more libertarian world. We need to be able to be our word and trust our word with one another. Yeah. It's because we aren't that we have to get the cops involved, And Ron Paul's power was in his integrity. And even people who didn't agree with Ron Paul, they'd always say, I don't agree with everything he says, but boy, he sure believes what he talks about.
Yep.
And you know it. You know that he is telling you from the heart what his convictions are. And I think that's something we need a lot more of in this world. So,
amen. Great place to wrap it, too. Jason, thank you so much for your time. Where can people find you and anything you got going on, man?
Go find me on X at @JasonRink. And I've got a great animated video celebrating Ron Paul's life on there right now. My gift to the movement. So
very cool.
Appreciate what you do, brother.
Awesome.
Thanks.
You too. Keep it up. And I would shake your hand, but I don't have
clammy.
any. Yeah, here's an elbow.
It's balmy here in Lake Jackson, Texas.
And my hands are full, so we're getting back to COVID methods.
We wish you were here, though.
Mycadelics. Connect with nature's wisdom through Mycadelics Mushroom Grow Bags by Tyson 2.0 and Shroom. Now you can cultivate your own sacred mushrooms at home. Our all-in-one...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, do your job, Dave.
No, I don't have it, actually. That's why I was...
Our all-in-one kits guide you I don't usually read this part. You on this transformative journey. Just add your liquid culture and witness the miracle of growth. Our advanced filter technology preserves purity, allowing multiple... By the way, we should change that to there. This is not our product. But their advanced filter technology preserves purity, allowing multiple harvests in 4 to 6 weeks. So go to advancedmyco.com and use promo code SYSTEM to save $5 at checkout. Embrace mindfulness and spiritual nourishment. Begin your mushroom journey with Mycadelics Grow Bags today. Must be 21 or older. May experience psychedelic effects. I would hope so. Also, Sheath Underwear. If you're shitting your pants about... things that are going on in the world today, go to sheathunderwear.com. My friends, do yourself a favor and elevate your daily comfort and make your balls, I want to say free from being enslaved to
tyranny.
To the tyranny of your penis.
Of swamp balls.
Yeah. Do you got this pulled up yet, Dave?
Yeah, I do, actually. So the innovative dual pouch design provides unparalleled support and separation, ensuring each part of you has the space it deserves, bro.
Experience the sophistication of a design that respects your anatomy. The moisture wicking technology sets a new standard in comfort. This advanced system not only keeps you cool, but also prevents chafing and ball odor, making every movement feel effortless.
So go to sheathunderwear.com, use promo code SYSTEM at checkout. Experience the perfect blend of comfort and functionality with Sheath. Again, that's sheathunderwear.com. Use the promo code SYSTEM.
And finally, are you tired of the corporate banking cartel and state-rigged markets stealing your wealth? Break free with Perfect Spiral Capital. They'll help you build riches on your terms outside their grip, whoever they are.
Capital T. They. Invest like a dissident. Ditch the system. Own your future. No handouts, no bailouts, just real results.
The system is full of rigors, and inflation's eating your savings. Opt out now and stack real assets with Perfect Spiral. Build wealth that lasts.
Perfect Spiral Capital. No bullshit, no red tape, Just smart strategies for serious people who crave freedom and financial sovereignty.
Join the rebellion at perfectspiral.com/system. All right. We're here outside the Ron Paul 90th birthday barbecue bash here in Houston. Houston-ish.
Lake Jackson.
Perfect. Lake Jackson. I'm here with the great Buck Johnson from Counterflow Podcast. Buck, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
I'm well. Buck, what brings you out to the Ron Paul birthday bash?
Well, I was going to come anyway because I love Dr. Ron Paul. Calling him a politician is sort of putting a dark shadow over him that shouldn't be there. But if we call him that, let's say he's the best politician of all time, certainly my lifetime, but I would say of all time. And then I got asked to do the Tom Woods show. And so between honoring Dr. Paul and appearing with Tom Woods, who I also consider a great man, why wouldn't I be here?
Amen. So your show originally started out as like the death to tyrants and big politics and all that stuff, and now you've kind of taken a turn to a more spiritual route, which Doctor, I'm trying to keep it in topic of Ron Paul, but he's brought the politics and the spiritual side of things together quite a bit over the years. So what made that turn for you?
The short of it would be God made that turn for me, but if we can get in how that manifests itself, it would be the COVID years made me go, you know what? I'm an atheist. Wait a second. There's people doing a lot of dark, evil things here, and it's not just politicians making some ill-conceived decisions. Something's going on here. Something's dark, something's evil. And I started digging into some spirituality questions, which I was very apt to avoid for 20 years. And
just come over here where there's more sun.
And
I don't know, it's moving.
And again, Dr. Paul, though, even when I was an atheist, it's like, what a great man this guy is. He's so humble. His humility shines, even though he's brilliant. He doesn't brag about it. Maybe that has something to do with his Christian roots. And so some of these things started crossing my mind. I started digging into things. And Ron Paul gave all of us a way to say there's a third way, right? Not the right nor the left, not to sound cliche into the cheesy LP stuff. No, I'm not right nor left. But I started thinking, okay, I don't have to be this boomer Zionist Christian that I sort of despise. But atheism sounds really retarded at this point. And lo and behold, I find orthodoxy, and it's like we actually call it the royal path, the third way. And I started thinking this libertarian to orthodox pipeline that has happened, absolutely happened. Ron Paul might have had something to do with that.
Would you say that there was a point where you didn't necessarily believe that there was a creator, a whatever, but you started to see the evil?
Yes.
You started to see that there was the opposite of that. And if there's an opposite, then the only hope that you have is if there's an opposite of the evil.
That was precisely it, yeah. And think of how nihilistic you'd have to be to just go, oh, everything sucks, they're killing us, they're after us. And it's like, when that's all there is liberty. It's like, what? No, there's got to be something more than that. And I actually had my friend at the time known as Vin Armani, now goes by Cyprian, and we got offline after the interview, and I said, you've got a really sharp instinct and way to describe what's happening with COVID and the jabs and whatnot. And he said, dude, if you were looking at this through a materialist lens, you've lost the whole plot. This whole thing is spiritual. It's a spiritual warfare, all of it. And I said, okay, what's this thing about orthodoxy that you talked about? And he's like, let me tell you. And then it went from there.
How much time do you have?
You're right.
Yeah. And then you started an entire podcast based on orthodoxy.
Yeah. And that just kind of happened. I never sat with my producer and was like, okay, we are not libertarian. We are orthodox. It just continued the organic journey that I was on, and so that's just what it is.
Awesome. What is kind of your history with the Dr. Ron Paul, the man of the hour? Where did you come in? Were you back in the day, the 2012, 2008?
Way before all of that. Okay. I was living in Austin, Texas, 1998. You may have heard this man named Alex Jones had a public access TV show. I got hooked on that. I was already into dissident politics. Let's say that to start with. So I gravitated towards Alex Jones. Then he got a radio show going on FM radio. Can you believe that? In Austin, Texas, Alex had a radio show, and it was all conspiracy stuff throughout. My friend Jack Blood was a show host on there. Anyway, he would have Ron Paul on, and I thought, this guy seems to know what he's talking about. So I started following Ron Paul, and that was in 2000, and which got me to vote for Harry Brown in that presidential election. And the more I heard about Ron Paul, I started studying him. I started going to little events that he was talking, and I thought, okay, I've always leaned pretty right politically, but I'm anti-war. It felt like I was homeless. You know, I love Pat Buchanan and some of the paleo conservatives, and then I discovered Ron Paul, and it's like, oh, well, here, this is it. This is my...
It rounds all the problems. Like, you can be a conservative who doesn't like debauchery and also doesn't like war.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah, and I will say I had this naive streak in me. When he announced his run to be the Republican nominee in 2000, he announced it, I suppose, in 2007. I actually remember when and where I was when I read that in the Austin Chronicle, a liberal rag, and I thought, oh my God, this is it. Well, he's going to win. Like, the Republicans are going to nominate him. He is the perfect example of a upstanding human being who believes in traditional values and small government. They're gonna nominate him. Boy, I'm all in. I was wrong.
He makes so much common sense that politics will go right along with the common sense.
But I was all in. I was making signs up around and putting them all up around Austin. I became a delegate for him. I went to the state convention, and boy, that state convention is where my eyes were sort of open, like, ooh, they're not going to allow him to win this, are they? So we went through a lot of those struggles, but here we are still. None of the other people that lost that nomination have anything, no events going for them.
Newt Gingrich.
Right.
NewtCon next year. We'll be there.
And the winner of that one, by the way, was John McCain. Mm-hmm. And it's awfully hot where he's at. So it's hot here in Texas, but I'd rather be here with Ron Paul.
Agreed. What from all those experiences, is there a standout moment or a thing aside from the Rudy Giuliani moment? I mean, is there, because that's just cop out at this point, but is there a moment in Ron Paul's history or your experience with Ron Paul working along in tandem with the campaigns and all that stuff that stands out to you?
One that's just kind of silly and funny, and it shows you how sweet and what a great gentleman he is. I played with Jimmy Vaughn at, let's see, it was the 2000, we played both 2008 and 2012, and I can't remember which one this was, but we're backstage in the green room, and we're all just hanging out, and Ron Paul and one of his sons that's not Rand walked in and said...
Who cares about that one? He didn't do anything.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. I apologize. Forgive me. And we, of course, we're all jazzed and said, could we get a picture with you, Dr. Paul? And he said, sure. And his son's taking the picture, looking at people that look like me. And his son goes, what a motley crew. And Ron goes, now, they're our guests. You better be kind to them. And it was just something so genuine and just simple to say. But I was like, what a sweet man. And then going to his house for a Christmas party was sort of a dream come true, and sort surreal, to be quite honest with you as well.
Yeah. Final thoughts on any of the event that's going on here? The turnout, the place is sold out at not a cheap ticket for even general admission, and they are sold out for this man's 90th birthday party. What's your experience been so far, and what's the reception been to you being here?
It's been fantastic. It just goes to show you how much people love this man. Again, there's politicians come and go. If Lindsey Graham held an event like this and people didn't think I have to be there because he has power, so I should be there wouldn't be very many people there. This is a man, Ron Paul, who no longer holds any sort of government power whatsoever. He just has left this...
He has the real power.
He has the truth. Power. The truth, that's correct. And speaking of that really quick, think of how much older Ron Paul is than Joe Biden. 8 years. Look at Ron Paul's cognitive ability. He's articulate. He thinks beautifully. He speaks beautifully. Look at Joe Biden. That's a lesson in lying your whole career versus telling the truth your whole career. It's very bad for your soul and your brain to lie like that.
It shows.
And here we are with Ron Paul, beautiful, 90 years old. And I hope I look, sound, and act like Ron Paul when I'm 90, if I, God willing, make it that long.
Absolutely. I'll take it. Any plugs for anything you got going on?
Counterflow podcast on YouTube, Counterflow with Buck Johnson. Subscribe to the show if you'd like. We do Orthodox stuff. We talk about politics.
Great intro.
Yes, the best intro.
Just saying.
Politics, culture, religion, conspiracy stuff sometimes, Israel, all through sort of an Orthodox Christian lens. So if you'd like that sort of topic, counterflowpodcast.com or go to the YouTube page.
Awesome. Buck, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being here. Thanks for doing all the great work you do. We do a elbow bump COVID style because my hands are occupied by a microphone and a camera, but
we need a mask.
Yeah. Let's talk more. But thanks, Buck. I appreciate it.
Dissident Media.
Amen. I probably should have plugged that first. We are out here at the Ron Paul 90th birthday barbecue bash with the great Tom Woods. Tom, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a 90th bash, but it's 105 degrees, unfortunately.
You know, it's Texas, yeah. You have a lot of history with Tom Woods, or you have a long history with yourself, Tom Woods. You have a long history with Ron Paul. You were around during the early days, right? For the whole movement, right?
Well, I mean, I'd known about them since before the presidential campaign. So when they came along, I thought, well, this ought to be interesting. Mm-hmm. And I've done this, that, and the other thing for it. I've written some stuff. I've done a lot of speaking for Dr. Paul. I helped him with his homeschool program. And everything I did for him, I felt like it was an honor to be able to work for your hero. You know, not a lot of people can say that.
Yeah. Well, my kids, Kale and Ahava, both took your/Ron Paul's history class, and they're big fans. So, especially as far as history classes go. So, what was your involvement in the early days of the Ron Paul movement?
Well, I started chronicling a lot of what was going on. I would write for Lou Rockwell and other outlets, telling people about details they might have missed. Like, I'll never forget in 2007. There was, of all things, a tax forum going on in Iowa, sponsored by two Iowa, conservative groups, and they refused to invite Ron Paul. Now, it's a forum on taxes. There's no one on earth who has a better record on taxes than Ron Paul. They refused to invite him. I actually called them up on the phone. I wanted to get some kind of an answer. It was obvious what their answer was. These are all establishment hacks. Yeah. They want to change things by 2%. They don't want to throw over the table the way Dr. Paul does. So his people, we all got together and said, well, then we're going to have our own tax forum with just Ron Paul in the same building across the hall. And we ended up having like twice as many people for just one candidate than they had for the rest of the Republican slate. And that was an early kind of thing that, most people didn't even know that happened. Mm-hmm. But I just wanted to let people know something's happening here. Like, nobody did that for anybody else. Mm-hmm. Something's happening here. Let's get off our rear ends and see if we can capitalize on this energy.
Absolutely. And I've seen a lot of, I wasn't there for a lot of the early stuff, but I've seen a lot of the clips that they've got playing in between speakers today, and just seeing the people and even the news anchors being like, we can't for the life of us, can't understand why this is happening. People are coming out of the woodwork for somebody who's speaking logically in politics. Yeah. And it's just amazing to see it in today's day and age, looking back on that type of thing and the impact that he had and the consistency that he's had, as opposed to Donald Trump, who's going against things that he said 6 months ago. So what is, to you, the legacy of Ron Paul?
Well, the fact that it's his 90th birthday and he's surrounded by a sold-out crowd of people of all ages and backgrounds. When we think back to the people he ran against in these campaigns, we don't even remember who these people are, John Huntsman. He ran for president in 2012. Nobody knows who the hell he is. Yeah. John Huntsman, Duncan Hunter. Nobody knows who he is. But so what's going on here? Or even Rick Santorum. Now, you might remember him. He was a senator. Is anybody doing anything related to Rick Santorum anymore? So that goes to show something special was happening with this guy. And the legacy is that he, as Scott Horton says, he gave permission to people who aren't on the left to say, I don't favor these wars either. Mm-hmm. And he also read books and encouraged other people to read books. In particular, the great Austrian economists, who could have prevented things like the 2008 financial crisis. I mean, he got people thinking and talking and learning and debating in ways nobody else has. And as Scott Horton says, it's what one American has spread the ideas of freedom more than this guy.
Yeah. Who's going to the 90th birthday of Rick Santorum bash? Rick Santorum, I don't know how old he is, probably 70s, 80s, something like that. But any of these people, even dare I say, Donald Trump. Donald Trump flip-flopping as much as he has. Do you think he'll have any kind of lasting impact the same way that Ron Paul has?
I would say Donald Trump has probably changed the Republican Party in fundamental ways, but I don't think anybody's going to get together and say we need to commemorate the ideas of Donald Trump and the books of Donald Trump. And I was so inspired.
Whatever they were.
Yeah, right. I was so inspired by Donald Trump. I mean, a lot of people like him for going after the establishment, going after the Bushes and all that, but that's not a reason to come out to a thing like this.
Yeah.
There was more to it than that. This guy was genuine, unrehearsed, and he cared more about the ideas than he did about self-aggrandizement.
Yeah. Are there any specific stories that stand out to you, things that you experienced while following Ron Paul all these years?
Oh, I'm sure there are, but maybe one of the best ones is he had a book in 2008, and the campaign was wrapping up, and publishers thought there's no point in publishing this book because he's going to be forgotten like all the rest of them after the campaign is over, and we're going to be stuck with this book that nobody wants. So a lot of publishers said that. Wiley, which is a big publisher, their young editors said, we should take this. And the old, stodgy, we don't understand what's going on in the world people were saying, no, this book will sell 8,000 copies. And the young editors said, this book will sell 8,000 copies on the first day. But they couldn't win it over. One publisher, Grand Central Publishing, said, we'll roll the dice on this. And it ended up being a #1 New York Times bestseller. And the young editor who urged them to take on the project got a massive promotion as a result. So, which well-deserved. Good for him for doing it. But that's an awesome story. And I remember getting the phone call and being told, guess where Dr. Paul's book is on the list? It's #1.
That's awesome. Which book was that?
That was The Revolution.
Okay. I would imagine you can still find copies of that here today, and, they never thought it would go anywhere. But still, how many years later? Still kicking?
Yeah, 17 years. Yeah, that's like his manifesto.
Yeah. Turns out when you are honest and just tell the truth, it has much more lasting capabilities than all of these politicians who are just telling you what you want to hear.
Yeah. I remember Jon Stewart was not my favorite guy, but he did, when he interviewed Ron Paul, he said something like, Dr. Paul, you appear to have consistent, principled integrity. Americans don't usually go for that.
Or politicians don't, or like the powers that be don't seem to go for it, what have you. But Tom, I don't want to keep you too much longer. Any final plugs, any final thoughts on Ron Paul and his birthday bash, and anything you want to promote?
I would just say it's honestly been one of the great honors of my life to have any association with him at all. That to be associated with somebody you can be proud of all the time. You know isn't going to back down. Isn't going to embarrass you. It's just going to stand up for the truth, and you just want to show all your friends, look at this video, look at what he said, look at what he did. So that's been an honor for me, and I'll just say the Ron Paul Institute is carrying on Ron's work. So if I were to plug anything, it would be not even my own thing. It would just be ronpaulinstitute.org.
Awesome. Tom, thanks so much for your time, and I'll COVID elbow bump you because I have my hands full here, but that's what we're doing today. But Tom, thank you so much, and keep doing the great work that you're doing, man.
Thank you, Dan. You're the best video guy we have. Thank you.
Say it again, into the camera, one more time.
The best video guy we have.
Even one more.
All right, now he's pushing it a little.
All right, thanks, Tom.
The great William Shakespeare once said, "First thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers." That's right, it is common knowledge that literally no one in the known universe actually likes lawyers. That is, until they're saving your ass. Max the Axe at Lone Star Injury Attorneys is a professional ass saver. A rare breed, though he be a lawyer, he is indeed a principled libertarian, a defender of the injured and downtrodden, a supportive, faithful Downers Club member, my personal favorite, and a shockingly kind and hospitable fellow at an award-winning personal injury law firm. So if you've been injured on the job, in an automobile accident, or some other form of cattywampus beyond your personal control, visit LoneStarInjuryAttorneys.com or just Google Max the Axe for maximum results. Consultations are free and you don't pay a single dime unless you win. Go with the pros at LoneStarInjuryAttorneys.com and get your ass covered.
We're here outside the Ron Paul 90th birthday bash barbecue extravaganza with the great Connor Boyack of Tuttle Twins and so many other things. Connor, how's it going, man?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. You want to give just a brief rundown of who you are and all the stuff that you've got going on? Because you've got your hand in so many different creative endeavors that are severely lacking in the Liberty space these days. I commend you on all of them, but who are you and what do you do?
Well, thank you. I am founder and president of Libertas Network. That's kind of our umbrella company over a lot of these initiatives that you're talking about. So that's libertas.org. So author of the Tuttle Twins books, sold 6 million copies, translated into 13 languages. We now have a cartoon with Angel Studios, TuttleTwins.tv, where you can watch that for free. We've got 3 seasons teaching kids and their parents about freedom, both in the books and the cartoon. We have a program called the Children's Entrepreneur Market, where we get kids into entrepreneurship. This year we'll have about 100,000 kids go through the program. That's kidsmarkets.com. And we have Praxis, which helps young people or young adults get a job without needing to go to college. We've got a think tank, we've got a public polling company, so we got all these different operations, but all of them are designed to try to reach and engage families in the fight for freedom. This is, I think, what our movement has long neglected. We talk to adults typically, and that's fine, we need to do that, but I think the far more lasting and effective way to get our ideas to take root into people's minds and hearts is to get it into the family room at the dinner table. Let's get it into a context where mom is talking to kids and dad is doing it at his job, and when you can get it into that environment, those ideas sink far deeper than just being at a symposia and hearing a speaker. And so that's what we're about, is let's engage families in the fight for freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, again, a severely lacking space that you have capitalized on, and I commend you for it. Now, you guys recently had, was it Argentina had some interest in the Tuttle Twins? Talk about that.
So Javier Milei, obviously very libertarian-leaning president of Argentina, he tried to shut down their state-run TV channel, kind of like our PBS equivalent. And Congress in Argentina said no. They overruled him on that. He has a lot of executive power in Argentina, more so than our president, but on this issue, like, he just didn't have the power. So Congress was like, no, we're going to keep the channel. So his reaction was, okay, fine, I'm going to gut it of all the socialist garbage that they've been airing for years, and we're going to put on some good stuff. So his team that he installed at that state-owned company, very aligned libertarian folks, they reached out and asked, hey, could we license Tuttle Twins? So that was in the works for, 8-9 months. Just this month, August, they've started airing it on Paca Paca, which is their kids channel. It's kind of like our Nickelodeon back in the day. Like, millions of kids in Argentina and throughout Latin America watch this. And so the Tuttle Twins TV is on Angel Studios. It's free to watch. It's all over the world. But now it's also in Argentina on a state-run channel. That
ironic.
We would prefer it be shut down, but hey, if you're going to have state propaganda, let's have it be liberty rather than socialism.
We can keep PBS if it's just playing Tuttle Twins and The Chosen all day long. That's fine. What's been kind of the backlash or, some of the hurdles that you faced with all of these projects?
Interestingly, when we started in the early days, one of the backlashes that we got was internal criticism of like, well, why do we need this? Let kids be kids. Let's talk to them about these ideas when they're adults, like, propaganda. What do you, and even from like libertarians, conservatives, and some who didn't quite understand it. Of course, years later, COVID hit. And ever since, we've had no one give us any flack for that because the toothpaste is out of the tube. I think everyone realizes that there's propaganda all over the place and that kids are being exposed from textbooks and TikTok and teachers and everything else.
They're getting groomed by somebody. It might as well be libertarians.
Yeah, it's like kids are being exposed to ideas. Why not give your children a foundation of like your worldview or what you think is true, which is every parent's natural right? And so our books fundamentally, like I would tell people in the early days, it's not propaganda in the sense that like, oh, we're in a classroom and I've got all these kids captive and I get to like brainwash them. No, our model is, hey, mom, hey, dad, if you're aligned with these ideas, here's a resource to help you talk to your own kids. So it's very much like upfront about what we're trying to do. Now, the reality of it is we appeal far broadly to like a conservative, people who believe in freedom, not necessarily libertarianism or even anarchism and so forth. But like one of our books is Murray Rothbard. We've got Anatomy of the State for 8-year-olds. And we're teaching them the evils of the state. And Elijah and I thought, when we do this book for kids, we're going to get some backlash. Zero. All these like even conservative parents are like, oh, this is so helpful to teach the importance of, voluntary relationships over coercive ones. And we're like, yeah, it applies to everything.
Now apply it to outside of the book.
Exactly.
I've had a bit of a campaign over the last forever on libertarians and everybody thinking that they need to do politics, just the politics side of things. And I mean, Dr. Ron Paul is a great case of doing both. He did the politics. Now he's been doing the liberty stuff after politics even more years, I think, than he ran campaigns. But what are your thoughts on like the creative space and people, exploring what makes what they have to bring to the table?
I'm an all of the above kind of guy. We need people in the system. We need grenade throwers outside of the system. We need people in media. We need people in academia. We need to do what the left has done for decades and infiltrate. Yeah. And we need our ideas to, plant seeds all over the place. And so I commend the Ron Pauls of the world that have the intestinal fortitude to stick it out inside the system. I run a think tank. We do legislative affairs. Like we get into that space as well for policy reform. But it's not the solution. I tell folks I don't think America is saved at the Capitol or in the courtroom, even though we should engage in both those places to defend freedom. Mm-hmm. If America is to be saved, I think it's at the family dinner table. And so, have people at the Capitol, have people litigating and suing the government, but also let's recognize that the most long-term transformational change is going to come from the ideas. And so we've had Ron, for years, decades, sharing these ideas. I remember as the 2012 campaign ended, people are asking him, like, okay, the revolution, like, what's next? What are we going to do? What are you, Ron Paul, going to do? Like, we'll keep following you. And he was like, no, like, I don't know what your skills are, and I don't know what your path is. And
I did my thing. Now it's time for you to do your thing.
Exactly. And I had him on our podcast a number of years after the campaign ended, and I brought that memory up for him. And his point was very pointed. He's like, Connor, I never would have thought to tell someone to go start a think tank, which is what you did. And then I never would have thought, hey, someone should be writing children's books about, and take that times 1,000 across all these people here who have been popping up their own little projects and books and podcasts and shows and conferences and all the things. And that to me is what we need. But again, like if someone's going to run for office or do different things, I just think we need all of the above. And I'm so excited that there's so many of us now. I'm especially excited that a lot of us were like early Bitcoiners, and a lot of our ideologically aligned people have resources now that we can hopefully like infuse in all of this. Yeah. It gets me really excited about the future.
Absolutely. Now, what was your experience with Ron Paul? How far back does it go? Were you there in the early days?
So 2006 is when it was for me. I had just graduated college. And I was invited to a screening for a documentary called America, Freedom to Fascism by Aaron Russo. He passed away a number of years ago. And it was his attempt to just say, here's the ideals of America and look at how far we've descended from them. And I was in this like library room with like 15, 20 people, this little film screening. And there was this, lots of interviewees. And there was this one guy that just made a lot of sense. And, Congressman Ron Paul. Mm-hmm. So I go home, I Google Ron Paul. I started reading his C-SPAN speeches and the books that he recommended, and just went down the rabbit hole from there. So that was, the year before the campaign. The 2008 campaign started in 2007. So I was right there and ready for it, and watching all the debates and telling all my friends to Google Ron Paul.
Sure. So your span goes back at least 4 years before mine does. What are some of the historic memories? I mean, we can't use Rudy Giuliani. That's a cop-out at this point. But what's a favorite moment? Did you work on the campaigns, or how involved did you get? Anything specific that you remember that was special?
So I helped a bit on the 2012 campaign. On the 2008 one, I was part of just the open grassroots, helping make signs, helping hold signs on street corners, donating to the Money Bomb, telling all my friends. I had a blog at the time, so I was blogging a lot about it and telling folks on Facebook and stuff like that. And so, the debates were instrumental for me. I was more heavy on the education side, so I was recommending the ideas that he was spreading. So I was sharing books, and I was, hey, great, you watched that clip on, whatever, Fox News, like, go read this book now, and trying to point people to, Mises Institute or Lou Rockwell or whatever, right? Just trying to deepen people's understanding. So that's how I was more focused on kind of the 2006 to 2008 during the campaign. Later on, 2012, I helped a little bit on the campaign informally, but by then I was kind of starting my think tank and trying to figure out, okay, I support Ron Paul, and I'm donating and telling all my friends, but also I had this vision before the revolution ended in 2012 of we need more infrastructure. We need more organizations. We can't just hang all of our, whatever on.
Can't just be a guy.
Can't just be one person. So I was concurrently kind of doing my own thing, getting it off the ground, but eagerly sharing as widely as I could with anybody who would listen, which, a lot of people did, but a lot of people were like, you're crazy, this is stupid, you're unpatriotic, because whatever, right? But just trying through social media at the time and my own blog and any conversation where people would listen, just preaching the good word.
Yeah. So what do you think is the legacy of the great Dr. Ron Paul? Like, what do you think this is a sign of? We got not a cheap general admission barbecue here that is completely sold out and just everybody turning out. Where do you think this goes?
Well, like Ron Paul at the end of 2012, like, I don't know, like we have spontaneous order, right? It's decentralized. And I think of Boyack, right? That which is seen and that which is not seen. Like, a good economist, he said, focuses not just on what is observable and what we can see in front of us, including 1,000 people here, paying whatever we paid to be here. But what is not seen, right? Certainly there's a lot of people watching online and donating to the money bomb and all this stuff. But I think about my own context where I'm a link in this chain. Ron Paul woke me up, right, and helped me go down this path. And now with Elijah and, the folks in my organization, we're doing, among other things, Tuttle Twins, where now millions of people are learning these ideas. They have no clue that they are a link in a chain connected to Ron Paul, unless they listen to me share this story on a podcast or whatever. But I wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for Ron Paul. And now part of his legacy is millions of kids, the rising generation, their parents, getting exposed.
PBS in Argentina.
PBS in Argentina, and he could have never predicted that. It wasn't his idea. He didn't control it. He didn't start it, right? And that to me is the power of these ideas, is like the more we just get them out there, it's just the creativity and the spontaneity. And so I have no clue what his legacy looks like. I just know that being one link in the chain, I see downstream of what we're doing, and it's massive. And we're only 10 years into this. We're going to be doing this for decades to come. And that makes me really bullish about the future. And then thinking about everyone else with their own, shows and books and media and organizations and whatever we're all doing. Like, do I think we're going to convert the world to libertarianism or what? Like, no, right? But we can do a lot of good. We can open a lot of minds. We can make a massive impact. And that gets me really excited.
Absolutely. Connor, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for all the hard work you're doing. Where can people find you and everything you got going on, man?
I'm easy to find on social media, Connor Boyack. You can Google me, ConnorBoyack.com, Tuttle Twins, obviously as well. But libertas.org is where you can go. That's our parent organization. You can find all of our different projects and initiatives there.
Awesome. Connor, thank you so much. We're doing an elbow COVID bump because I got my hands full, but cool, man. Thanks a lot. Shooting may stop. All right, well, we'll see what happens. We are out here outside the Ron Paul 90th birthday bash barbecue with the great Jordan Paige, who second act opening up the night. And I can't tell you how moving it was to hear your songs at this event. I've seen you at Pork Fest and everything, and I know a little bit of your history and involvement with Ron Paul, but seeing you open up this was just a beautiful moment. How was it for you?
Well, it was great to be invited. It was... I guess I fulfilled a particular role during the campaign in 2012, and Ron and his family have been incredibly wonderful to me, and it was awesome to be included in this, because he's a person that we should celebrate. I mean, he clearly has impacted so many lives, and mine included, in profound ways, and so I loved it. It was a thrill. There was a great crowd. Everything sounded great. I had a wonderful time, yeah.
What was your kickoff point in getting involved in Ron Paul way back when? Where did you find out about him, and what inspired you?
So I was already on the freedom, truth movement train by the end of 2006, beginning of 2007. And by mid-2007, I discovered this politician that was telling the truth. And I didn't quite know how to respond to that. And the more I listened to him, I got my wife interested in him. And we just became just crazy staunch Ron Paul supporters. I finally got to meet him in July of 2008 at the Revolution March, which was an event that I was invited to perform at. And that was his last campaign event. And that was my very first event ever. And so we got to meet that day, and I started opening for him at other events that we both were booked at, and people were always putting me on right before he would speak. And so we developed this sort of back and forth where I would get on for about a half an hour, 40 minutes, and get the crowd riled up, and then he would come out and speak, and it really worked well. And then the campaign came around, and they asked me to be part of it, and it was such an honor. It changed my life. Yeah.
Awesome. And Ron Paul always talked about freedom is popular, but if you're going to do it, you got to have fun, and you got to have music. You got to make it lively. You got to be creative. What's your take on like where things are? I mean, I've seen a lot of libertarians and Republicans even try and make a difference, but it seems like there's always a creative element. There's always something missing that transcends politics, which is like the music and the art and stuff like that. What inspires you to make the art that you make?
Well, at this time in my life, you know, my walk with God is really what's mostly inspiring to me. Like I'm putting a new album out this year. That's my first praise and worship album, and it's still very much Jordan Page. It's like a rock album, but it's praising the Lord, and so that's really pushing me, because for me that's ultimate freedom. You know, I still believe all the things I believed back then. I'm still a staunch voluntarist freedom guy, and I believe in non-aggression and self-ownership and all of that stuff. You know, but I'm much more about issues rather than focusing all of our attention on one person to solve all of our problems. Yeah. You know, even the cult of personality around President Trump, you know, I mean, it's like everyone is putting him in the position to solve all of their problems, but it's really up to us. It's up to the people, you know. And so I'm an issues guy. I care about things that are going on that I can lend a voice to, give a song to. I guess the first song I did that was about a real person, not just about issues or whatever, was Lavoy Finicum, who was an Arizona rancher who joined the Malheur Wildlife Refuge peaceful stand-in, essentially. And he was helping Western ranchers unplug from the Bureau of Land Management system, and he was set up to be assassinated, and they killed him in cold blood. And I was very close to that situation and found out that he had been killed the night that it happened. And I wrote a song for him called The Ballad of Lavoy Finicum that night. And it ended up becoming like an anthem for that whole time and that movement, and it was part of a documentary about Lavoy called Dead Man Talking. I got word about Schaefer Cox, who was a Ron Paul libertarian in Alaska, who had gotten 28 years for conspiracy, whatever that means. And so somebody gave me a copy of his book of poetry and song lyrics that had been smuggled out of the prison, and his lawyers published it, and someone gave me a copy of it, and I read it and I cried, because I was like, this guy is me. And the thing is, he had discovered a massive child trafficking and drug running ring in Alaska that went all the way up to the governor's seat, and he was naming names about who was involved in that. So he didn't just poke the bear, he shoved a red hot poker up the bear's rear end. And so they sent everybody that they had at him to infiltrate his network of people, and ultimately they framed him for some nonsense, and he was given 28 years, and they put him in a prison within a prison where they emptied Guantanamo Bay into Terre Haute, Indiana. They put him in that prison, hoping that he would be killed. By the grace of God, he survived, but a lot of people didn't. And he's out now, so because it wasn't because of me. I did a song for him and a music video, and with his foundation, in collaboration with them, we did a national campaign for Schaefer, and now he has been released. And so that was a huge win.
We need a Roger Ver song. We need a Ian Freeman song.
Right.
It seems like all the guys that you write songs. I've made videos for a lot of these guys, not those guys that you're talking about, but I made videos for a lot of the guys, and they're still not out. So make the song, man.
So I'm working on a song for Ian already.
Nice.
I've got ideas for that. It's kind of brewing.
Yeah.
Roger Ver, I've met Roger a number of times, and I like him, and I would love to support him too. You know, it's just a matter of like, the elements have to come together at the right time, like they did for Ross, and you know, because I did the Free Ross song, and that was very successful. That really did well. And I have a real heart for political prisoners, and so I'm really looking at doing another song for Lynn Ulbricht's organization, Mothers Against Cruel Sentencing, Max, and doing kind of like a catch-all political prisoners song to be an anthem for their organization. That's on the menu too.
How does it feel coming out to the 90th birthday and seeing such a sellout, turnout, just blowout that it's been?
You know, Dan, it's not like surprising. This man is loved. I mean, I remember like all Ron Paul people are like Metallica fans. If you've ever been to a Metallica concert, people are nuts about Metallica. People are nuts about Ron Paul. I remember once I played a night, it was the night of the Florida primary. We were in Las Vegas at a casino. There were 2,000 people in this ballroom, and I played for 45 minutes because he hadn't arrived, he wasn't ready to come out. And so I played a little bit of longer set and just rocked out. People were going nuts. They were loving it. And then I thought they were loving that. Then Ron Paul comes out. They screamed so loud, it was like crackling my eardrums. Like,
you're like, yeah, they love me. And then you're like,
they love me? No, they love Ron Paul.
Because of that guy.
Yeah, like it did not surprise me at all that this thing sold out and that like so many like such high quality caliber speakers came and spoke, that Jimmy Vaughn played, you know, it was wonderful just to be part of it. But so many of these people are people I knew for years and spent time with.
Family reunion. Yeah.
It was a family reunion for sure. It was so much fun. I loved it, yeah.
Over all those years, what's a favorite memory that you have of Ron Paul campaigns, or not necessarily things that you were involved with, but just stuff that you remember that sticks out that he did?
You know, there was the Iowa straw poll stands out for me in the 2012 campaign because Ron had, all the candidates had their own area. They had their own stages. And Ron was his booth was feeding everybody for free, and you know it was such a spirit of like love and family around his tent essentially. And I opened and played a set, and he came out and he asked me to stay on stage with him and his family, and I got to stand with his family. And he said, I've always said revolutions need two things, young people and music. And he's like, and Jordan's brought the music, and here are all the young people. And I was just like, whoa, okay, that was amazing. I'm that guy. And it was, it was just such a privilege to be part of that moment in history.
Absolutely. Now, where can people find you? What do you got going on? You said you got a new album coming out. Where can people find that and anything else?
Sure, so my music website is jordanpage.net, and you can find me there pretty easily. All my music's there. I'm on all the streaming platforms like Spotify and iTunes and Amazon. My new album is going to be out probably in November, December, and it's my first praise and worship album. So I've kind of been radically repurposed and all of that. Yeah.
Sure. Awesome, man. Well, Jordan, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for all the hard work that you put into this movement and everything else. I really appreciate it. I can't really shake your hand on screen. Maybe I can.
Thanks a lot, Dan.
Thanks for watching. Smash all the like and subscribe buttons because that's what we say at the end of videos. Good night, everybody.
This concludes our broadcast day.